Hi there. If you like watching more content like this, please consider subscribing. We have the best edited videos and it also supports the channel. Now, continue to video. r/confession. My wife did gangbangs when I was out of town. And now she feels guilty. She doesn't know that I know. A little background about us. I'm 35, she's 32, and we met 6 years ago, been married for 4.5 years. We both are from India and have had an interfaith marriage. She's Christian and I was raised Hindu. We met through a dating app and instantly hit it off. I was doing well professionally, a trader for medical goods, and she was a happy painter, did reasonably well despite having a few lull months here and there. As we talked more, I realized that she's had a glorious past. No relationships as such, I'd say 0, but the fooling around had been more than plenty. And it's pretty uncommon for Indian girls. Not that there's anything wrong with that. A girl's sexual life, it is her business. This really attracted me more towards her because she felt liberated due to her sexual freedom. Oh, and the stories of her past, those were incredible. Soon enough, we were doing each other like wild rabbits, and our role plays were downright filthy and disrespectful. All I can say is we tried to outdo each other every other time. And boy, she brought the competitive best out of me, 'cause I was constantly thinking about her past, and wanted to do better than any of her previous partners. Speaking of which, I'm not massive size-wise, but above average and thicker. What she did to me was, she exponentially increased my endurance. I had to bring my A game every time we fucked. And she would not stop, it felt like we were addicted to each other. Our sexual compatibility had become so awesome that we didn't really see the emotional and the intellectual compatibility. For example, we both were hugely narcissistic, she was a hardcore Christian, and I wasn't. And a lot other qualities that'd make us totally incompatible. We had reached a stage where, amidst fuck ton of challenges, we got married, and I'll not get into the details of that. Till then, I'm pretty sure she hadn't strayed off. She had been loyal, apart from a few instances of sexting strangers. Yes, she brought them up to me herself. That was prior to marriage too. And given our libido, we didn't consider this cheating, as long as the other partner knows. Here comes the fun part, all these years I've known that she's a sex addict, and could really not trust her. I knew that one of these days, she's going to lay with someone else. And the more I thought of it, it aroused me. Now, let me add that she's not good at covering her tracks, and she's got a very poor presence of mind. I had her Facebook password 'cause she used to access FB through my laptop at times, and to access her profile all I needed to do was open my laptop. It was known to both of us that she's still in touch with her ex-fuckboy, even after 2 years of our relationship, and about 6 months of being married. She'd messaged them in front of me, and I can be sure that she hadn't made the move on them yet. All because she was getting it regularly from me, and at that point in time, my work travel was really not frequent. So, she could afford to control her desires. A few months go by and I start traveling more often. This is the time, I keep an eye on FB Messenger. I leave to Delhi and bam. The sexting starts, with one of that younger fuckboy. Obviously, I can see it all happening. She's oblivious to the whole thing, and they decide to meet the next day on the pretext of work. I call the wife that evening after she had been chatting with her boy toy, and ask her about the day. She lies, through her teeth. She talks about how she'd go to work the next day. She thinks she's being careful by not using WhatsApp or SMS. Meanwhile, I've been taking screenshots of this on FB Messenger. I had to stay in Delhi another week, and all I could do is monitor that messenger. And what I found out that week was shocking. The fuckboy just piled on and on. The number of messages was just too much. By this time, I had way too many screenshots that I didn't bother collecting any. From the messages, it was clear that she had multiple gangbangs. I was not pissed, which was strange. I was just extremely aroused by the thought of her getting pounded. When I came back home after roughly 10 days, the guilt she had was giving me goosebumps. She'd satisfy me like there's no tomorrow. Of course, she never came clean about it. I started monitoring the messenger more, and I could see chats where she's clearly defending me. There was one thing certain, she was addicted to sex, but loved only me. Selfish of her. But I was no saint either. A few years down the line, I pretended to be dumb about her affairs, and by this time, a few of her friends who really liked me didn't approve of her behavior. They were not the type to poke their nose in our relationship. A few more months passed by. I decided to befriend one of her fuckboy, unbeknownst to her. He knew who I was, and he literally shit his pants when I tracked him down at the pub he regularly goes to. I'm a little big, so it took me a good 10 to 15 minutes to tell him that I mean no harm. He was married too, and after knowing that I have evidence of what he and my wife had been doing, he was ready to help me out in any way possible. The first thing I had to tell him was to not reveal to her that I know. He readily obliged. He would from time to time tell me about her. How many she fucked when I'm not around. That was a funny thing. She'd only engage in this when I wasn't in town. She'd never do it if she had her in-laws or parents to take care of. It started becoming clear that she's just doing it out of addiction. And the sex after my out-of-town visits were out of this world. She'd fuck out of guilt and I'd do it out of fury. It was unbelievable. We would last hours in bed. She'd fuck even if her vagina had gone sore. Trust me, she was a machine and made me into one. Remember her friends who didn't approve of her behavior. One of them had gotten really close to me out of pity, and she was going through a terrible marriage which was going to end soon. One thing leads to another. I boinked her brains out. There was not a single fantasy position we didn't try out. She was thoroughly impressed and surprised at the fact that why would my wife cheat on me if I'm this good? Really sorry for blowing my own trumpet. Obviously, she is not as kneeving manipulative as I am. So, she confided in me that my wife isn't faithful at all. I brushed it off saying, oh, that's just her guilt talking, 'cause she betrayed her friend. Oh boy, that sex was amazing, but not as good as it was with my wife. All in all, throughout the marriage she slept with about 20 guys, and I know this for a fact, and as time went by, it reduced exponentially. As much as I know now, she hasn't been doing any. But the guilt kills her, 'cause from time to time I come clean about things like I flirted with a receptionist or secretary, totally made up, and the guilt would eat her from inside. And she'd give me a glorious time. Apart from her friend, I also had an episode with her sister. Didn't go all the way, but the sister backed off. All said and done, I love my wife's high libido, and also, I'm a big fucking arsehole. I feed on her insecurities, and have degrading sex with her. Eventually, I do think I'll tell her, 'cause it's pure evil not to. But it's too tempting to keep our arrangement as it is. The problem is that I still don't think, if we truly love each other, I wouldn't torture her if I did. I would have come clean to keep our marriage open. We only have our sexual life, which is beyond great. But what we have for us works. The friend pays visits now and then, and life seems great. For now.